How are you guys doing? This is Ryan. Welcome back to the channel. I've always wanted to make this video, and of course you can see in the title here, this video is if you like minimum wage, you hate poor people, and you should like this instead. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So minimum wage is essentially a coerced wage that employers must pay employees in exchange for their labor. So in various states, it's anywhere from 7 to 10 and growing to $15 an hour is the coerced minimum wage. And how could it be that if you like minimum wage, that you hate poor people? Well, there's a couple reasons I can point this out and why there's a much better solution. If you think you like poor people and you think minimum wage is a good way to help them, why you're wrong, and why if you advocated for this, you'd actually be helping poor people really instead of hurting them. So let's start with the obvious of first getting into the workplace. This one some people don't agree with, but this one I think is an obvious one to always point out. So sometimes getting into the workplace, if the wage is too high and the employer can't justify paying that high of a wage for a job that has a low skill level in terms of threshold, then they won't hire that person. Whether if wages were very low, then they would hire this person that's low skill, probably new to the marketplace, and this person can now start building a resume. This person, once you have a job on your resume and a reference and proven that you can show up to work on time and dress appropriately and do a decent job, that creates more value for you in the marketplace if someone else said you did a good job for them. People that do internships know this very well. And that's a way, especially corporate America gets away from this. They don't pay people any wages if they call it an internship. So they get around minimum wage. They know how valuable it is to get that internship with this ABC or some big corporation. Let me go work with you in the summer so I can build my resume and I can show someone else that I did something for you, and therefore they can trust me in their organization. They do it for free. So that's what the real minimum wage should be. It should be nothing, because it allows you to get access to the marketplace. So for people that want to get access to the marketplace and are forced to have to get paid to do it, they can't build their resumes, so that they can never get that next job and that next job to continue to grow their value in the marketplace. So that is one of the biggest things, and it just goes to show you how the market even gets around it by calling it an internship, to show how bad minimum wage is and how valuable just building your resume at a lower wage is to a company that may not be able to justify the expense. So that's thing number one. So thing number two, me as a restaurant owner, this is why I wanted to make this video. We're having a situation where tip labor has had their wages increase dramatically. So they used to get paid $3 or $4. Right now, all tip labors that I have to pay my staff is $9, and it's going to $15. So holy cow, what is going on here? We've had a 300% increase in tip wages for minimum wage. Like, where is that money coming from? So what you have to do, you have to increase the prices on your menu, and then once they get up to $15, the prices are going to be so expensive on the menu that it causes a couple issues. I think it's going to take away tipping culture in the society. So what you're going to have happen is you're going to have people in the service industry that are serving people not getting tips, eventually working for salaries like in other cultures. This is very cultural. Servers make a lot of money. They make a lot of money. Bartenders and servers, my staff, they all make tremendous amount of money because they sell themselves. They earn their money. They get tips. And that's much more than they're going to get if it's switched to some kind of salary type position. And if the food's just too expensive, and say, oh, but we're accommodating the staff. I think that's the biggest thing that's going to happen with this terrible law, and it's going to ruin the quality of service because they're not working for it and earning from it from the person they're going to get the money from. So it's going to allow servers eventually and bartenders to make less money. And you're seeing pushback from the restaurant industry trying to turn their staff into W-9 employees, which is very fascinating. So they're actually going to be commissioned, and they're going to auto-gratuity your checks. And there's like a loophole around it. We have not done this yet. A lot of restaurants are doing it. it's not off the table for us. But the thing is, when you run a restaurant, you have to keep your labor under 30%. It just is the math, or you go out of business. So if you just keep on jacking up the labor, you're going to push these businesses out of business, and no one has a job. So again, they're trying to play with that. So that's another way to show that, minimum wage is taking away high-paying jobs, and it's going to make those people poor because they're not going to be able to work for tips, essentially, if we move away from a tipping culture. So that's another example. Another example is, and this leads to what you should do instead. So minimum wage, I like to use this example. Back in 1961, 2, 3, right around there, minimum wage is about $1.25. $1.25. And until 1964, quarters were actually still 90% silver. So what's interesting is if you take those quarters and you melt them down, you have $25. That's what minimum wage actually was, because the marketplace was actually pricing, the price of money, and they were also pricing the minimum wage there, which shows that it was much higher in the past. So what's going on is that they keep on trying to higher the minimum wage, but what's really going on is they're diluting the value of the money. If you don't dilute the value of the money, you don't need to coerce this whole situation. The people are getting poorer because their money is becoming less valuable. They're not becoming poor because minimum wage is not going up. They're becoming poor because their dollar's not getting them as far. So now they're trying to play with the marketplace, and guess what employers can afford to pay for labor, but they're destroying the people's purchasing power. So this is something that jumped out profoundly to me. So that's why, do this instead. Stand up for strong currencies. If you really like poor people, fight for sound money. Fight for good money. And that's why cryptocurrency is here. It's here to challenge the whole system. That's why it arrived in 2008 as a solution to a failed banking system, to a failed central bank system, to a failed Federal Reserve that is destroying poor people. It's not because they don't have a high enough minimum wage. As they continue to hire the minimum wage, the prices of the goods will continue to go up for the person paying for it. So let's say minimum wage goes up to $15. All that's going to happen is the prices in those businesses are going to go up, and the person getting the minimum wage is not going to be able to afford anything more. He will be able to afford more if his dollar or Bitcoin Cash or Monero is worth more. He's going to increase purchasing power. I mean, that's why you see Bitcoin, if there's always that picture, one Bitcoin gets me more over time, right? One Bitcoin used to get me, a small amount of groceries. Now it used to get me, a car, and pretty soon it'll be able to get you a house. That's what sound money does. But when governments print money, and what they do is they play a political game. I'm going to raise your minimum wage. Give me votes. They're buying people's votes with other people's money, and the whole thing's a scam. So again, if you like minimum wage, you hate poor people. Give me a thumbs up if you agree, and subscribe to the channel for future content. See you guys in my next one.